Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are exploring something I like to call the architecture of action. Over my 30 years working in actuarial science and risk management, I learned a pretty surprising truth. The absolute highest risk you can possibly take in life, it's leaving an objective unquantified. Seriously, when you look at the raw data of human achievement, you realize that mitigating that massive risk, it often comes down to the smallest, simplest truths. Today, we're looking at a single sentence, just 8 words. But these 8 words completely reframe how we move from a passive, highly volatile state of wishing into the statistically measurable, concrete realm of active achievement.
Okay, let's dive into this. A goal is a dream with a deadline. It's beautifully simple, isn't it? But don't let that simplicity fool you. From a strictly risk management perspective, this single line is a heavy-hitting anchor. It represents the vital bridge between a completely unquantifiable hope and a statistically achievable outcome. Literally every great achievement in human history started right here, squarely in that tension between the imagination and the calendar.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we dissect these two vastly different states. Think about it. A dream is soft. It's abstract, totally unbound by physical constraints. In actuarial terms, we'd say it's a variable with infinite volatility. Because it lacks any real parameters, the probability of it just magically happening on its own is, well, practically zero. But a deadline? A deadline is stubborn. It is concrete. It forces a rigid parameter right into the equation. A deadline doesn't care about your limitless potential. It strictly demands action by a specific date. And that friction between these two opposing forces, the infinite imagination and the finite, highly measurable clock, that is exactly where real progress is generated.
So the crucial point is how these contrasting forces actually unify. A goal isn't some completely different species from a dream, not at all. Rather, a goal is strictly defined as a dream that has finally been assigned a deadline. It's what happens when you take that unbound, high-risk idea and you forcefully anchor it to the concrete reality of time. By simply adding this temporal constraint, you know what you're doing? You're essentially underwriting your own ambition. You transmute a passive wish into an active, manageable, and far, far more probable target.
Let's move along and see how this builds a really clear, actionable roadmap for us. The progression from passive ideation to active execution, it happens in a very precise 2-step algorithm. Step 1, you must have the dream. You absolutely have to visualize the outcome before it exists in the real world. But, as literally any actuary will tell you, if you just stop there, the probability of success remains sitting right at 0. Step 2 is the catalyst. Applying the deadline. You really don't need a complex 50-page strategic plan to get started. You just need these two sequential components to immediately shift your gears from thinking into doing. Which brings us to the ultimate application of this entire concept. We've seen exactly how the abstract becomes concrete, right? Turning infinite risk into calculated probability. So, ask yourself, what deadline will you set for your dream today? Because knowledge and structured learning, they are only truly powerful if you execute on them. I want you to take that one thing you've been passively hoping for, mitigate the immense risk of it never happening, and put a firm date on it, right now. Transform it into a goal. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and honestly, I absolutely cannot wait to see what you build once the clock starts ticking.